Hi, I'm your Gemini friend. So this video is about Saturn in the 10th house. In the description, I do have more videos on Saturn, what it represents in our chart, and also information on how you can get a reading from me if you're interested in a natal or synastry reading. But okay, Saturn in the 10th house. This is technically its most natural spot. So this is going to be the most natural Saturn video. What I'm explaining is very standard Saturn, Capricorn, 10th house energy. That doesn't mean it's any easier. Saturn is always going to be hard because it's hard by design. But if you have this placement, you likely have a very natural understanding of discipline, of the importance of hard work, but because things have been hard for you in this way. So what Saturn represents, this is how we create discipline, how we create foundations, structure, how we channel our energy into something that we're working towards long term. And Saturn's going to be in a sign and a house. The sign's important too, but the house is really going to show the area of life where this Saturn lesson is the most prominent for you. And the lesson that Saturn is teaching, this is how we create authority in the area where we're meant to, by essentially learning the lesson the hard way. Because if it's not hard, if we don't have to struggle and work in order to reach our goals, we don't value them as much. We don't learn as thoroughly. And Saturn wants us to learn very thoroughly. It makes us take things step by step. It's a slow process, it takes patience. But once we master one step, we're allowed to move on to the next one. Since Saturn rules boundaries and limitations, it sets limitations very intentionally for us so that we can work up to being able to expand beyond them. What the 10th house represents, this is our career, our long-term goals, our legacy, our public image. This is definitely a chance of you having Saturn conjunct your midheaven, which really increases that Saturn energy overall in your public persona, in your essence when people see you professionally and what you're working on. And what this does is it gives a sense of caution in the career, in whatever it is that you're doing long term. It doesn't have to be about work or about professionalism. This is about your soul and what you want to do with your life, what you want to channel your energy into and build. And if you have Saturn in your 10th house, it can feel like a lot of responsibility to build something, because the 10th house has a lot to do with how we seek recognition, and you likely feel that you're meant to be recognized. You're meant to be somebody who builds something great and also who can serve as an example for other people. But again, you have to learn things the hard way before you can really be that example. And Saturn has a lot to do with our relationship with authority figures, and so does the 10th house. So your relationship with authority can be difficult. It can feel like either people are always trying to hold you down, or you could have issues with authority figures. And that's because you are kind of meant to be the one in charge. You're meant to be the one in charge of your life, definitely. But this is a great sign of being somebody who is a natural leader in a very efficient, responsible way. So what I'm going to look at here, struggles, and then the growth process, and then mastery over this placement. And if you look at your Saturn sign, this is essentially going to be the embodiment of how you create discipline, the sign's energy that you are acting through when you are building. But starting with the struggles here, this can come with a very, very deep fear of failure, fear of not meeting your own standards, not being able to reach that goal that you have for yourself, even if you don't know what that is. This can come with having such high expectations for yourself that you don't even want to start at all. It can feel so heavy. You can have such strong expectations or feel projected expectations from other people on you that the very idea of not meeting that can feel devastating. It can feel like it directly affects your worth. So the pressure to succeed that comes with this, it's more likely that you are going to be putting all into whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's a job that feels fulfilling and personal or something that just feels like it's what you have to do to get by. You likely put all of your effort into that. You come across as somebody very, very reliable, and you're probably the sort of person who really pays attention to time. You probably don't like being late. Of course, so much of this is going to have to do with the rest of your chart and just the rest of your energetic makeup, but Saturn and the 10th house and Capricorn all have a lot to do with time and recognizing the importance of time. You don't want to waste other people's time, and you likely don't want your own time wasted. But people who are late, people who don't handle their time efficiently or don't take their work seriously can really bother you, because for you, this is crucial. It's important. You recognize the importance, and that's a really powerful thing. But it is important that you don't wreck yourself from the inside trying to be perfect. Because what comes with Saturn and Capricorn energy is this feeling of needing to be the backbone of everything. Saturn and Capricorn are associated with the skeletal structure and the backbone. So you can feel like wherever you are what everything is leaning on, which is a lot of pressure. So when it comes to perfectionism, or even just the idea of your mistakes being seen, don't let that hold you back from taking chances. Because if you don't take chances because you're afraid that you might not do as well as you want to, if you don't start something new because you're afraid you won't be perfect at it immediately, nobody is. It's like, unless somebody is somehow a natural prodigy at something, even if you are a natural prodigy at something, they're still gonna make mistakes. Mistakes are a part of living, and the best thing that you can do for yourself is consider each mistake or imperfection to be a step towards something better. There's nothing wrong with mistakes. Mistakes are not a bad thing. If you make a mistake or if you fail, that's not a sign that you're a failure. That's a sign that this didn't work. Maybe your first attempt didn't work. Maybe your second attempt won't work, but that doesn't mean to stop. If you don't do something perfectly immediately, it's not a sign that it's not meant for you. It's a sign that you're meant to put work into things. Practice makes perfect. That is just like the most over-said phrase, but it is so true here. This is about practice and patience and taking time with yourself and allowing yourself to take all of the steps that it takes to get there, whether you do well or not. I totally understand the pressure to do things perfectly, and I understand being interested in something but not really taking that first step because you don't know if you'll be good at it or not. But the more you can just expose yourself to these situations where you are taking a chance, you're not sure how it'll go, and you're not taking it too seriously, even if it feels crucial, give yourself some slack. Let yourself have a little bit of room to grow. Because overly trying to control a situation, what this does is it makes things rigid and it leaves no room for error. And when there's no room for error, it's too much. It's too much to try to have to hold everything together like that. You already have so much pressure on you. Recognize what pressure you can take off, what pressure you're putting on yourself, and you can kind of give yourself a little bit of leeway. I'm not saying you have to become somebody who's not striving for your absolute best, because you're always gonna be that, but your best, it's going to change. It's like a sliding scale. You're always going to have improvement in everything that you do. And if you look back and you see your first attempt and it's like way later and you've been working on it and you're so much better now, don't be embarrassed by your initial attempts and how they weren't as good as you are now. That's only a sign that you're growing, and that's always a good thing. But what this pressure comes from, it is this natural sense that people are looking up to you. If people are looking to you and they compliment you, they tell you, wow, you're so good at this, or they're expecting a lot from you, of course you don't want to disappoint them. But it's just not fair to yourself to expect to always be on at 100%. Nobody can do that. So what this placement can definitely lead to is burnout, and overworking can come with a really, really strong desire to prove yourself, this need, compulsive need to prove yourself, to prove your worth, to prove that you are good enough, that you're maybe even the best. But things move slowly with this. Wherever we have Saturn, everyone has Saturn somewhere, that's a slow moving house. So when this is your career, it is very likely that you're not going to have any really solid career foundations or solid success until around or after your first Saturn return, which is when we're about 28 to 30. So don't expect perfection from yourself before then, but after the Saturn return, if you've been working on this, if you've really been focusing on having patience, on working on things diligently and putting discipline into something instead of working yourself so hard that you're burning out. If you expect the best from yourself, but also recognize that best doesn't mean perfect. It's your best at the moment. It's how well you can do with where you're at. That eases things up somewhat. So really focusing on your work rest balance, that's an important thing here, because if you feel like you're not enough and you have to do more, doing more isn't gonna fix that. It doesn't ultimately fix what is actually an imbalance in rest and work. If you're always giving and you're never receiving, that's unhealthy, that's imbalanced, and that's just not how we work. It can seem like it with society and all of the standards that we can put on ourselves, that we have to always be working, we have to always be productive, but there's a reason why we have night and day. The duality is a huge thing just in this world. We have opposites, and if you're working, you also need to be resting. It only makes sense. You charge your phone. You probably don't shame anybody else in your life for taking a break, taking a day off, taking a nap. These are all things that you deserve too. Just recognize that success is going to be a slow and steady process for you, and it does happen with time. It gets better with time. It happens later on in life, but not like super late necessarily. It's just that if you're in your early 20s and you have Saturn in your 10th house, really focusing on defining your success on your own terms rather than what society has to say can help with that patience that you need to have with yourself. And when it comes to issues with authority, you might not want to be seen as an authority. You could naturally fall into that role. It's very likely with this placement that people look to you and they might expect you to know more than you do or be able to handle more than you can. And you have to be able to admit when you can't take on everything that everyone is asking of you. Taking a day off, again, or saying no to something that someone asks of you, you need to make sure that you are only taking on as much as you can handle, because overworking and overloading yourself is only going to make you feel overwhelmed. If you can handle everything with that slow and steady patience energy, then you'll have a lot more peace overall. If 10 different things are on your to-do list, narrow them down to what is most immediately necessary. And if people come to you with more things, say, hold on, I'll handle it when I can. Just like, don't be afraid to come across as a human and as somebody who has time that they want to handle their own way. Sometimes this can feel like work is the only thing you're allowed to do. Even when you're resting, you might be wanting to work on something else. Maybe you have other jobs and like things on the side, or even hobbies that are important to you that mean something and take effort. So just make sure that you're not constantly overloading yourself with stuff that takes effort, because you do deserve to have some effortless moments of rest as well. And as best you can, try not to worry about what other people think of you and how they see you, because they likely see you as so much more capable than you think you're coming across as. There can be a lot of insecurity with just general visibility here, since the 10th house rules the public image and how we're seen publicly in that more professional way. So being seen with the cautious nature of Saturn, it can feel threatening. It can actually feel really threatening to be a public figure. But this is a sign that you're meant to be a public figure in some way, or have your own sense of success, your own something that you've built. So don't shy away from being seen just because it's terrifying. People will judge you. People will always judge you. Even just like people that you walk by might be judging you, but it's always based off of something going on within themselves. You are the ultimate judge on yourself. And if you like what you're doing or you don't like what you're doing, that is going to tell you a lot. Make sure that if you are putting your effort into something, that it means something to you, because when you're focusing so much long-term energy on your career, you want it to be personal. You want it to mean something to you, and you want it to be like an extension of yourself, something that you can continually put personal energy into. So if you feel like you're in a job that you're just doing because you have to work, you have to make money, and you're putting all of your effort into that, just figure out if it's fulfilling or not. If it feels like you're actually feeding your soul, like you're doing something that you're going to be able to do sustainably, that's a good thing. You want a sustainable career with this. If it doesn't feel sustainable, if the thought of doing this in 5 years just like kills your soul, it is a good idea to figure out what might be more sustainable for you, because you're meant to have full control over your career. This is very, very much boss energy. So make sure that you don't feel like you're in a position that doesn't give you the control and power that you're meant to have. But of course, what comes with authority and being a boss is even more responsibility. That's why there's this slow buildup to it. You're essentially building the steps to being the sort of person who is able to handle more and more. And that can sound exhausting. And that's why I say, make sure that what you're doing actually means something to you, because this is a sign of needing a fulfilling career, something that is going to be, again, sustainable, but also bring you life, something that you want to build. So moving into the growth process, like I mentioned before, you want to define success by your own terms. You want to determine what actually feels successful to me, what feels like a personal success, like I'm actually doing something that feels good for me, like I'm building something that is important. Because society will tell you all of these things, like you need this, or you need this amount of money, you need to focus on like whatever. Just remember that money, greed, everything that's wrong with the world, I feel like comes from greed and people's desire to get more and more money. Work isn't about money. Money is just a tool. It's just something that sustains us. It's something that we need, but it shouldn't be the goal. And I totally understand if the goal is money. If you just want to have a lot of money and that is what motivates you and drives you, that's fine. I'm not deterring you from that. I just want you to feel fulfilled. I don't want you to feel like you have to just grind until you are ground flat. It's not about that. That's not what life is about. Think about, like, if money was not even a factor here, would I be doing this? Would I feel good doing this? Does my soul resonate with this? And seek out the things that your soul resonates with, what you would be doing if you didn't have to make money. And best thing you can do for yourself is recognize experience, recognize the value of time and effort and the compounding, everything that builds from that. Your growth is meant to be slow and steady. Slow and steady is the best because then you've got a firm foundation and it won't be knocked over. You've got everything really stable at the bottom, and then you continually build up. The time that it takes to get there is incredibly valuable. Things take time. They just do. I'm sure you understand that things that have more time put into them are going to be more durable, higher quality, long-lasting. You're meant to build something long-lasting, so take your time with it. And everything that you can possibly do to release the need for perfection. Perfection does not exist. It never will. You're never going to have everything be perfect. Look at the most perfect thing to you and you'll still be able to find technical imperfections, and the imperfections are what actually give things character and personality and the real value. That's how people relate. That's how we connect with each other. Like, everybody has, general things that they want to be perfect, but when we really connect to something, it often has to do with, it's because we see some of our pain in it, or we see something that is unique about us in it. Really strive to create something that is personal and unique rather than something that is perfect, because even if you think it's perfect, or even if you think something else is perfect, there are going to be other people who don't think it's perfect. It's totally up to you. So you have to build based off of what makes sense and feels right to you rather than what seems like the right thing, because you're never going to be able to please everybody. At least be able to please yourself. Do what feels pleasing to you. And other people, it doesn't matter. Other people shouldn't even be a factor here. Yes, they will see you. Yes, you'll likely have to lead them and guide them and direct them. But to be an authority in this area, to be somebody who really knows what you're talking about, you're in that flow this way. When you know what you're talking about and you're able to help somebody with that, that's a really powerful feeling, and people can just feel the authority coming off of you. And another thing that comes with leadership and being a boss is that nobody wants a boss who acts like they're perfect all the time, who does not let themselves be critiqued. That is a sign of weakness. It's a huge sign of weakness. If somebody doesn't ever let anybody see their flaws, they say, no, I completely disagree when you bring something up to them, it's weak. You don't want to be a weak boss. You want to be somebody who does take critique and is able to see whether it's even valid or not. Because some people are just going to be bothered by things that really mean nothing to you. But to be open to constructive criticism is a really hard thing, but it's powerful because it shows that you are willing to change and grow. You're not ever meant to reach perfection, the pinnacle, like you're there, now there's nothing else you have to do, because that would be boring. You want to keep growing. You want to continually be bettering yourself past the point where you even thought that you could. And this shouldn't be exhausting. It should be like life-sustaining. It should be building who you are as a person, because you likely have a very strong internal compass when it comes to both ambition, what you should be working on, what is actually worth your time, and also the ethical side of things. You likely have a strong understanding of ethical responsibilities, what you can really do in order to maintain the goodness of something, maintain its kind of like purity within the idea. What I'm saying here is that when you're an authority, you don't want to do things unethically. That is totally going to disrupt your foundation. You want to be working with integrity. You want to be doing things the right way, using the right materials in the right form, all of that stuff, because if you take shortcuts, Saturn will punish you in this way. You are meant to be doing things the long way, the hard way, not taking shortcuts, because then you'll have a superior product. Then you don't have anything that you have to kind of gloss over or avoid or hide from. If you have something that is well made, well crafted, whatever it is, even if it's just a concept, then there are no holes. That doesn't mean that we're striving for perfection. It means we're striving for ethical integrity. And that is something that can come with Saturn here. There can be lessons that you have to learn in your personal ethics. You could be challenged. You can be in situations where you might be tempted to take a shortcut. So definitely don't do that. Where you have Saturn, if you try to take shortcuts, again, you will be punished. And that can be so many different things. This isn't a threat, it's a warning. I don't want you to get caught in something that you could have avoided by really following that integrity, your inner compass. So let's look at what mastery looks like with this. This is being a very respected leader, an authority, a mentor, a boss. Whatever sort of figure in your field is looked up to, you're looked up to. You're naturally looked up to, but when you've built something that people can literally look up to, or not literally, you have that sort of like bigness about you, that natural sense of being someone who is like looming over everything. You can see it all. People know that they can't sneak things by you. They know that they have to respect you. That's the word I'm looking for, respect, not bigness. But you know what I mean. This is being a big figure within your area of expertise or within the area of whatever it is that you're doing. Again, it doesn't have to be a traditional career. It doesn't have to be a profession. This can be something that you do from your heart, a hobby or something creative or like whatever it is for you. It's not about professionalism. It is about building, longevity, legacy, whatever you want your legacy to be. This is what this is about. And this is about creating that most you legacy, that thing that like after you die, people will still be recognizing you for this. And that's not necessarily the goal. That doesn't have to be the goal, but it absolutely can be something. And then we have mastery of discipline, which, I mean, everybody wants that. Discipline is an interesting concept because it's pretty well hated. Nobody wants to have to learn discipline because it's hard, but it's just like how people look up to people who can do things that are hard. I mean, not everybody can do everything. Not everything is easy. The things that are harder are the things that we tend to strive towards and really admire. And all that discipline is, it's channeled effort. It's having a goal and then recognizing how much of your energy throughout the day do you actually put into that? How much energy is reaching that goal and flowing towards it? And how much energy is branching off and going towards other things? Of course, you can have multiple goals, but if you have a specific goal, make sure that you are channeling your energy towards that goal every day, and that's discipline. It doesn't have to be strict, and especially depending on your chart. If you have a lot of mutable energy, you might not like to be doing things in a strict way that is like the traditional path or what people are going to tell you you have to do. You can always make up your own methods. This is very much a master of something that maybe even you've created, finding your own way towards mastery. It's very personal. And the public recognition that you get, it's not even necessarily about your achievements. This is in your essence, your overall essence of respectedness, recognition, just coming across as somebody that others look up to, that they want to emulate, that they want to learn from. The best thing you can do for yourself is to truly understand what Saturn represents and learn to embody it in a way that works for you. Because what you become is an example of true success. And true success takes persistence, it takes patience, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes authenticity. People aren't able to reach the highest heights of whatever it is that they're doing without it resonating with them on some level. So pick something that really works for you, pick something that feels like you, and make sure that your channeled effort is going into that. It's like, technically it's simple, but there are so many harsh, heavy feelings here. The heaviness comes from how Saturn, it's like telling you you're meant to really have success here. People are gonna look at you. You're going to do something great. But that feeling can be translated, if we don't feel like we're matching up to it, into all sorts of just horrible depression, self-loathing. This is not an easy placement. It feels like a crazy amount of pressure, but you do owe it to yourself to be doing something with that energy. Channel your frustration into effort. And last thing, again, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect. Allow yourself to make mistakes. The more you can expose yourself, expose your mistakes, tell somebody that you trust, somebody that loves you about your mistake, and then see how they react. Like, they're going to be like, wow, they're not going to say you're a bad person, that there's anything wrong with you. They're likely going to treat you like you're human. Maybe even they're impressed that you shared that, because it could be hard. It's very hard. But all of the things that you can do for yourself to make yourself feel better about being human, being fallible. Exposure is what gets us used to whatever it is that we want to get used to. It's like exposure therapy to a fear of failure. So that's what I have to say with this placement. I really hope that this is helpful. Please feel free to let me know if you have this placement. How do you feel about it? What have you experienced? Do you resonate with any of this? And thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you. I love you. Bye.